Hello, guys. Um, I just really wanted to get real for a minute about the topic of fear in the classroom. So, when we talk about classical conditioning and operant conditioning, we know that classical conditioning is involuntary. It deals with things like fear, things like the dog salivating for food. Um, but I think that it's really important to talk about fear in the classroom, which is why I gave you that article for strategies to address fear in the classroom. So, at any given time, speaking of fear, hold on. My cat was trying to jump out my second story window. Yes, I'm sorry, that's not allowed. All right, excuse me for the very abrupt noise. When we talk about fear in the classroom, I think right now, in the midst of this pandemic, it's really easy to give each other grace and realize that we're all going through something. Um, but I want you guys to recognize that at any given time throughout your life as a teacher, your students are going through something, and you may or you may not know it. So I just want to give you guys a little bit of background as this train passes my window. Hold on. I want to give you guys a little bit of background about my experience with fear and anxiety. So I've mentioned a couple of times in class that, or I think in your class, that I have struggled with anxiety in the past and still do. I think it's really important to be open about mental health, particularly in the field of education. And a lot of my anxiety has been triggered by this expectation that everything I do needs to be perfect, and the expectation that all of my teaching has to be perfect, my grading has to be perfect, and I have to really please everyone. And that pressure that I put myself in to please everyone has not always been healthy for me. My anxiety at times has been really scary. And I am really thankful that I have learned some coping mechanisms, and most importantly, that I have my faith, because I don't really know that I could ever manage things without the Lord. So when we talk about anxiety in the classroom, this isn't just test anxiety, although that's huge. It's anxiety about lots of different things. So within the classroom, and I've worked at a couple of different universities, I have had students who have been victims of sexual assault. I have had students who have lost parents, who have taken custody of their little brothers or sisters. You name it, I've seen it. And one of the hardest things about teaching is knowing that all of those things are going on while you're teaching. So I just think it's really important for this topic that we address there are fears in the classroom, and it's not your role as the teacher to solve these things. You are the teacher, you are not the counselor, and I know that's hard, but you can't solve things. But what you can do is be a support for that student, and you can direct them to a counselor. I have done that several times, and I just think that's so important that we recognize our boundaries. As educators, there's already a lot of pressure on us, so when we give ourselves the pressure of taking on all of our students' problems, that's really hard too. So actually, to be the best educator, it means recognizing problems, supporting students throughout it, but also directing them to the right sources. So whether you're an elementary teacher or a high school teacher, being that individual who will stop and listen is so much more important than you could ever know. So I know that this topic of classical and operant conditioning, yes, it's got a lot of terminology to it. Yes, it's important. But more so than all these definitions are just that you take away that you have the power to be that one listening voice to your students. And then you take away the fact that you need to take good care of yourselves as educators and direct them to who's meant to help and who's meant to be there. So if you guys ever want to talk to me about my own journey through anxiety and how a lot of that was redeemed through my Christianity, I would be happy to talk about it. But I just wanted to make sure that I gave a personal reason with this as to why I think the topic of fear in the classroom is so important, particularly in this season in terms of this pandemic that we're going through. I hope that you guys are all enjoying the beautiful weather, and I will talk to you soon.